What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Next week, we do have the Nintendo Switch 2 event, but it seems like some of the launch plans and details have actually gotten out there a bit early in a recent report, and in some cases has people scratching their heads a bit around the information, but I figure we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. Everyone's kind of hanging out waiting for another trailer, more information. Is it still coming out this year? It seems like behind the scenes, some big-time publishers are preparing even to delay some of their titles out of this year, just in case. And we had some good news in this case around a publication website, as we see many of them kind of going away in the gaming news space. It appears one is not only making a comeback, they're bringing the physical print magazine with them. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Metroid Prime 4. Because something interesting has been going around about this game. See, I think many of us assumed it would be at the event next week for the Switch 2, as it seems like a great way for them to show off that bridge of cross-gen between the current Switch and the next generation device. And we know Retro Studios can do some very impressive stuff with the technology that they are leveraging, but it seems like a new rumor going around is that it won't be there next week. This week, as he posted up, this is over on Game Rant, who says Extus Ones, the leaker, claims that the next entry in the Metroid Prime series will skip the April 2nd Nintendo Direct, citing unnamed sources familiar with the matter. Okay, so they haven't really elaborated on reasons why. The reason I assume that this is happening is because, well, there's a Direct that's still apparently happening this week, and it's just going to be focused on current Switch games. Seems like that would be where Metroid Prime 4 would show up, as it is a Switch 1 or current Switch game, and we're actually expecting that to come out here in a few months, I assume. It should be pretty close, and then, of course, it would still work on the Switch 2, so it seems like it would fit more in, technically then, with this Switch 1 Direct as opposed to the Switch 2 event. Also, while people do tend to make fun of Sony with their remasters and their remakes, there are some game series that people would like to see Sony tap again and maybe do a remastered collection for. One of those is Killzone, and in fact it seems like the composer for the series is saying, yeah, maybe we should do that. This is posted up, we can see, and this is PSU is actually citing the Gamer with the quote here, where Joris demand did say, I think it remastered one would be successful. So like I think a collection, but I guess even if you go back and just remaster the first one, sure. Says, I don't know if a new game would be as much. I don't know if people have moved on from it and want something, I don't know, sometimes I get the sense that people want something a bit more casual, a bit more quick. Yeah, actually, that's not a misguided assessment technically. Look at some of the more popular titles. They are more Twitch, fast-paced shooters. When you have a game that's a bit slower and maybe you feel more like a tank as opposed to just an acrobat jumping all over the place, running alongside walls, sliding under stuff, people tend to kind of lose interest in it. I've actually seen that happen with Halo in real time, where people go, oh, you can't, you're just so slow. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it's always been. You're technically wearing incredibly heavy armor, but anyway, Call of Duty, clearly very popular. Apex Legends, very popular. Fortnite, games that are just faster, keep your attention, and of course, hit you with all kinds of rewards that just happen, bars filling up, confetti everywhere. So I think Killzone could definitely work as a remaster because it wouldn't command the budget that a brand new one would, but would a new original Killzone work? That's a good question. Oh, and I have some unfortunate news for Witcher fans, as it appears that you'll be waiting quite a while for that fourth entry. We can see this over on PC Gamer saying The Witcher 4 won't be out until sometime in 2027 at the soonest, CD Projekt says, and they had mentioned this in a recent financial briefing where they went over a bunch of numbers and percentages, but the big thing people were looking at was, oh, it's actually not going to be out until after 2026. So technically, yes, it could end up in 2028. I'd like to think 2027 is more realistic because they are using Unreal Engine rather than like their in-house Red Engine, so maybe that would speed up development a bit. But it's not going to be coming out seemingly for another couple of years, so I guess we'll have plenty more time for them to show off some of the cinematics and eventually gameplay and then make the push to release maybe in the first half of 2027. Here's hoping. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch 2 because, I mean, we're a week away from the event. It's taken a little while, it feels like, to get here, but we're so close. Next week, we're going to see what Nintendo has planned for their next generation device and get an idea of their initial roadmap. Well, it appears we have a report kind of detailing some of their launch plans and 3 phases of this. So this is posted up, we can see. This is over on Insider Gaming with Tom Henderson. Says, one such discussion was around the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date, which according to people that I spoke to at the event, this was GDC, falls in June, which, I mean, that's kind of what we've been assuming. I know the talk of like May 15th was going around, but I mean, I don't really think that 5 weeks after they do their event, the system is going to drop. Even 6 weeks now, it's probably a couple of months minimum, right? So they're going to say, but that's not all. According to various sources, the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch its games in a 3-phase strategy, starting with primarily first-party games on launch. The second stage will arrive in October to November for third-party studios, most of which are expecting the dev kits for the Switch 2 to be sent in June. Finally, it was said that the third phase for games will be in the holiday period, and we'll see how that goes, I guess. But really, people are just curious, I would assume, of like that the first year or so of the system. What's the launch lineup going to look like? What's the cadence of game releases going to be? So in this instance, yeah, Nintendo's going to be leveraging first-party games to get this thing off and running like they have for pretty much every single system they've ever released. I mean, when the Switch came out, if you remember that launch lineup, wasn't, if you remove Breath of the Wild, wasn't like overly strong at all. And even after that, we had like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a Wii U game that obviously showed that it was incredibly popular, best-selling game on the system. It really spoke well, I feel like, to the casual audience and really worked to get the Switch moving along with Breath of the Wild. But in this case, yeah, you're going to have first-party games from Nintendo be there day one at launch, and then probably the subsequent couple of months to keep like the momentum going. The thing that seems to be confusing people here is when dev kits are brought up. It's like, wait a minute, they're going to get dev kits in June? Okay, some yes, but the larger third-party publishers and developers, which you can think off the top of your head, Capcom, Square Enix, Koei Tecmo, and then like EA, Ubisoft, you get the idea there, sure. They already have dev kits. It's more or less like the tier of them below at that point for dev kits would be getting them in June. Why would they go this route? Probably to avoid any of the different leaks and situations where you could see a dev kit show up online. We've already seen this with things like the PlayStation 5, where we saw that dev kit over and over and over again before Sony even showed us the system. We thought we were going to get a space hanger in our living room to put underneath of our TV just based on that dev kit being the only thing we had out there. Now, will this, say, affect a lot of the releases at launch, and then probably the first, as they say here, 4 or 5 months? I mean, to a degree. Again, you're not going to have some of the smaller, we'll say, AA games, I guess, but like Ubisoft and EA and then Capcom and Square and so on, Bandai, they will have ports and things set up from third parties ready to go. It just won't be as crowded at launch, which is maybe another thing Nintendo could have been thinking, hey, let's make sure we don't have a massive shotgun blast of just games from everywhere all at once. Let's spread this out somewhat. And of course, the security aspect as well. So yeah, I would say right now there are many developers for games you might be even thinking about going to the Switch 2 that don't actually have a dev kit right now. GDC, it seemed like a lot of people were talking about the Switch 2. Go figure. And I guess Tom Henderson decided, you know what, let's run the report and set it up with this 3-phase launch setup. So I guess we'll see what that third phase is later on in the year. But first, next week is up first, and we'll see what Nintendo has with the Switch 2 from first party. And yes, choice third-party developers. There will be some there, trust me. Next up, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6, which we're all still waiting for something, an update, a trailer. Even an announcement that it's not coming out this year, and hey, look, they need more time, we'll see you in 2026. Okay, well, it's not just us waiting to hear about this game. It's also pretty much the entire industry. All the other big publishers and developers, they're trying to figure out if they have to really place their game around what is most likely going to be the biggest launch we've ever seen in gaming history. Well, we can see this posted up, and this is a report from the game business who says 3 major video game publishers have told the game business they are ready to delay their games to avoid Grand Theft Auto 6. They say Rockstar Games always suck a lot of money and, more importantly, time out of the market, said the boss of one of the world's biggest game publishers. We don't want to be anywhere near that. We are working up multiple different plans for our titles. Another senior exec added, even without GTA, it's immensely difficult to find free time for new games to shine. Time is the real scarcity for us, not money. It's tough out there. Now, they also point to Battlefield as being a candidate for, maybe it gets delayed a bit to next year. It seems like Andrew Wilson's kind of already floated that a bit out there, at least presented the idea that maybe Battlefield will need more time. Say if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out in November, well, we'll just move that to 2026, like the first quarter, and it'll still fit within a fiscal year schedule that we have set up for releases and revenue versus expenses. But it is getting more and more difficult, I feel like, for these publishers. The longer we go, where GTA 6 still has this, like, no one really, at least from IC Online, most people don't believe that the game is coming out in 2025 because we're about to be in April and we still haven't had that second trailer. It's been like, what, a year and a half or something since that first trailer, and it exploded online, hundreds of millions of views, all kinds of talk about this game. And then it's been radio silence since. And here's the thing, the way that they do this, they could drop it at any time. They could be dropping it today. They could drop it on April 2nd, which would be insanity because, like, here's the Switch 2, here's GTA 6. The internet might actually break that day. But it seems that I'll say, we could be seeing the GTA 6 trailer in the first half of April. So we wouldn't be that far off anyway. And they kind of, I assume, would want to start setting this thing up if it is coming out in 2025. They have Borderlands coming out, September or so? So they really are already kind of placing their bets when it comes to their releases. And GTA 6 is one that a lot of these publishers want to clear the board for. So we'll see if we get something from Take-Two here in the next few weeks, because otherwise, maybe we should start looking at 2026 for GTA 6. Next up, let's talk about Game Informer, as they are making a return. In fact, they've already brought the website back online, and some of their original pieces are back up as well. And they put this video out, just basically making the announcement, which they had already teased for March 25th. And in this video, which you can see here, they do say that they were actually sold, Game Informer in general, to a studio or a company called Gunzilla. All right, so you take a look at their website, and they have a game called Off the Grid. So the situation here with Gunzilla is that they are technically dabbling in blockchain, right? So they have like blockchain, currency, NFTs all over their website. Apparently attached to this Off the Grid game. So there is, of course, some gray area here with this, because it's like, oh, okay, what are they doing exactly with Game Informer? And I mean, you can't, I think, confidently rule out the idea that it wouldn't in some way get involved with Game Informer, but at least for now, they say in the video, they've completely rehired all the old staff, and they've promised them to be independent. So they're not going to necessarily be aligning, I guess, with whatever Gunzilla has going on with some of their games, like Off the Grid and stuff. They will be separate, and it seems like more of an investment from the Gunzilla company and owners, as opposed to trying to use them maybe as advertising for their different blockchain stuff. So there you go. We'll keep an eye on that as we go along. Again, their website's back up, and here's the interesting part. They will be bringing back the print magazine. Details on that still coming soon in the coming months, and I'm wondering how they're going to make that work. I assume there would be a digital version as well, but there is something really cool about getting a gaming magazine in the mail and having it physically in front of you. It's more tangible, yes, and for me, maybe more nostalgic, but I think it's also just more valuable to have it in front of you, put it on a coffee table or even up on the shelf, because yes, you can go back to it years and years from now. And I will say, now looking back at some of the magazines that I have, which I've actually been even picking some up here and there as I see them, it is interesting to see a snapshot in time where maybe the publication was trying to figure out what that Project Reality or the Ultra 64 was gonna be, or what's this GameCube thing gonna end up being, or the PS2. Is it really that powerful supercomputer that other nations are buying? All that stuff's been discussed at multiple points in these magazines, and it's fun to go back and look. So who knows, maybe 20 years from now, you'll go back and look at one of these magazines and be like, remember when we were talking about GTA 6 coming out in 2026? How wrong we were when it dropped the summer of 2025. No. So I think it's really cool to see a physical print magazine come back. I'm just more curious about some of the finer point details here. And then obviously the parent company that's bought them, how exactly does that work out as they go along? And can they make this work in the first place for a sector that's very, very difficult when you have a ton of overhead? But hey, at least for now, Game Informer is back, and it'll be interesting to see what they do from here. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about WB and Monolith, because while they are shut down and the Wonder Woman game was canceled, we still kind of look at that Nemesis system as being an incredibly impressive thing that's only really been used in 2 games, and that was kind of it. It was supposed to be used in Wonder Woman. They decided to pull back from that, and then they ended up canceling the whole thing and shutting the studio down. Well, now we have some backstory actually to the Nemesis system, and it was kind of interesting as to why they made it. Now, this we can see is posted up. This is over on Tech for Gamers. And they say in an interview, a former Warner Bros. Executive revealed they lost millions of dollars because more people were playing Batman Arkham Asylum than copies sold because the game CDs kept juggling around. Say the feature's birth came from Warner Bros. Dissatisfaction with Batman Arkham Asylum sales because gamers kept reselling the game after beating it. Now, they also link out to Laura Fryer's video, and it seems like she just gave a lot of backstory around their time at WB and Monolith and things like this, so that'll also be linked down below in the sources if you wanted to learn more about the backstory in that time at Warner Bros. I just think this was really interesting because if you go back to when Arkham Asylum came out in the first couple of years there with the 360, it was like 2008, there was no live service push or games, or DLC was like this new thing. So the idea of keeping people quote unquote engaged was also very new, and they didn't go, oh, well, let's just make a battle royale game and maybe that'll work. No, they had to go, okay, how do we innovate for the next game that we release down the line? In this case, Shadow of Mordor. And how do we actually make that work to where they don't sell the disc right away? I mean, look at Arkham Asylum, it's 11 or 12 hours long. And if you bought it on Friday, you might be ready to trade the thing in after the weekend. If you just sit through and like binge through the game. On Monday, I'll stop by GameStop on the way into work or on the way back from work. I'll trade it in and get something else. The disc, I could see juggling around a lot, as they're mentioning. The Nemesis system, the idea was it would keep people engaged because they want to replay the game multiple times and just get a different outcome or different series of events to that ending. So in this case, it's the best innovation did come from necessity. And unfortunately, after all of that, Monolith still got shut down, and the Nemesis system is basically on the back burner. In fact, we haven't seen it since Shadow of War anyway, and the game it was going to go into didn't even make it out for release. So again, an interesting snapshot in time there, where a lot of these publishers did not like used games and even had to develop entire systems to keep people at least holding on to their game for maybe more than a weekend so that people would at least buy the new one rather than the used one off the shelf for $10 less. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, what is the primary resolution you play games at right now? 41% say 1080p, 24% at 1440p, 19% say 4K, 15% are playing either on the Switch or Steam Deck handheld, somewhere around that 720p, 800p resolution. This actually mirrors the Steam results for the most part, where 1080p is the leading candidate, then 1440p, then 4K. Right now, though, I guess, because I'm playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, I guess it's 4K. I mean, it's upscaled 4K. The TV itself says 4K. I mean, so it's kind of there. I get, though, that 1080p for a lot of people, especially on PC specifically, I mean, that's just the leading candidate there. It gets you the best frame rate right now with the mid-range video cards, and those are the most common. So, 8K, do we need it? Will we ever need it? That's a better question, because I kind of feel like 4K is going to be enough for most people for quite some time, considering many. It would be a big upgrade from 1080p. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Cordy, who says, if there is a direct this week, I think that they would have a section next week saying something along the lines of, all those games we showed last week, well, they'll all work on this new system too. I think Nintendo is going to stress that over and over again. I've seen some people say they don't need to tell us again that it works. I mean, look, most of us understand after the first time Nintendo told us, when they just put a message out there. This is Furukawa or something. Hey, your games will all work on the Switch too, the current ones. You're good. We're all like, all right, cool. It's backwards compatible. But you know, there's like a mom or a dad or somebody out there shopping for Christmas and they're still not sure. So for marketing, you have to tell people like 10 times. So they'll show it in trailers and they'll make a point to put it on the website and they'll probably do press releases and they'll still most likely be marketing in stores. So yes, when they show the Switch 2 in action with actors and stuff running around with the Switch 2 and showing it at the basketball court or something, they'll, I'm sure, drop current Switch games that you know very well into the system. It's probably like Mario Kart or something, or Mario Odyssey, Zelda, just to make sure it's drilled in your mind that yes, your current Switch cartridge will work on that Switch 2. But even with all of that messaging, they'll still have people this holiday season, I'm sure, going into these retail stores and asking, will these Switch 1 games work on the Switch 2? And I already see you nodding if you're someone working at GameStop or Walmart or Best Buy. You already know the question's coming. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to learn more about the 3DS in 2025 and why it's an awesome system to pick up right now. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.